only one way you can take this, and it's in that ring. Who wants to go toe-to-toe with the champs? This is calling my shot.
Sports world, a glorious day is upon us. The 2020 NFL season is around the corner. We also have fantasy football back, which means you're not bored at work anymore and you can constantly trash talk your buddies. With that being said, let's go over the top 10 fantasy football running backs for the 2020 NFL season. Starting off at number 1, you have CMC, Christian McCaffrey. What else can you say about this guy? He was the number 1 player in fantasy football last year. Look, here's the thing. If you have the number 1 overall pick in your fantasy draft, take Christian McCaffrey. You don't ask questions, and then you say thank you at the end of the year. This guy is an absolute stud. He is bound to put up double-digit touchdowns again, easily. Carolina has no other offensive weapons on the team. He's such a safe bet. Honestly, there isn't a more locked-in number 1 overall pick that I can think of in recent years than Christian McCaffrey. Big playability, catches the ball out of the backfield. Not to mention his stat line last year was something pulled out of a video game. He had over 1,000 yards rushing and receiving, over 100 receptions, and the guy had 19 touchdowns. If you drafted him last year, you probably won your fantasy football league. Look to do the same in 2020. Moving on, the number 2 running back this year, I have Saquon Barkley. While he did miss some time last year, I really do believe that we can go back to his rookie season and look at the numbers that he put up. And then even in the limited amount of time he played last year, he looked explosive. I really think that the Giants are going to utilize him on the ground a lot because they still have a young quarterback in Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley is still the best offensive player on that team. He has home run capability, which is why I like him a little bit more than some of the other running backs on this list, because he can easily win you numerous weeks just with his big play potential. Lots of upside for Saquon Barkley. Like him a lot at the number 2 position. Moving on to number 3, I have Ezekiel Elliott. Honestly, super safe pick. You look at his floor, he probably has one of the highest floors in all of fantasy football. The guy is consistent, can't complain about it, doesn't miss games very often. He's a safe bet, number 3 pick. Not to mention the Cowboys have one of the best offensive lines in football. I really like Zeke this year for obvious reasons. He could honestly finish as high as the number 1 running back, but on your first 3 picks, which are incredibly crucial, you need to have a guy like Zeke that you know is going to put up consistent fantasy points week after week. Can't speak highly enough about him. Moving on to number 4, I have Derrick Henry. The guy is an absolute freak. We all saw that last year. He single-handedly carried the Tennessee Titans through the playoffs last year. He had 1,540 rushing yards. The guy is an absolute train. While I do think his touchdowns could potentially regress a little bit this year with A.J. Brown emerging as a top receiver on that offense, I still really love the floor that he has. He's guaranteed to get 1,000 yards, barring injury, of course. As one of your top 5 fantasy picks, you need a consistent running back. Derrick Henry will deliver those results week after week. He plays in a pretty weak division as well, which helps him. Look for Derrick Henry to repeat the success he had last year and continue to build on it. Like him a lot, locked and loaded. Moving on to number 5. This may shock some people, but I have Josh Jacobs from the Las Vegas Raiders. He only played 13 games last year, and as you can see, his stat line was impressive, especially for a rookie. Not to mention Alabama running backs typically do pretty well in the NFL overall. John Gruden wants him to catch more passes this year, which is a great thing, especially in PPR leagues. The Raiders do have a fair amount of offensive weapons, but I still think their core identity with Gruden is to ground and pound the football. Plus, he really doesn't have any competition in the backfield, I have him as a sneaky top 5 running back play this year. Moving on to number 6, I have Dalvin Cook. I honestly would have put him higher, but his injury concerns are quite concerning. However, when the guy's on the field, you can't argue with his production. He has consistent 100-yard games. Kirk Cousins still can't throw the ball, so you know Zimmer's going to look to ground and pound it. Good old Vikings football. This guy really has filled some huge shoes taking over for Adrian Peterson. I like Dalvin Cook a lot. I think the touchdown potential's there again this year. And as long as he can stay healthy, and I preface that, he will finish in the top 6 for fantasy football running backs this year. Moving on to number 7, you have Alvin Kamara. Here's the thing. He's going to get paid. It's just a matter of time. The Saints are in contract extension talks with him. While I do think he can be a bit hit or miss, he's definitely high risk, high reward. In PPR formats, it favors him well, but you can't deny the fact that he's in one of the best offenses in football, and he's a really explosive player that can hit the home run play at any minute, and he scores consistently double-digit touchdowns. I really like Alvin Kamara again this year. Moving on to number 8, we have Nick Chubb. Ignore all of the Kareem Hunt talk. Hunt will be used to catch passes. That's about it. The backfield belongs to Nick Chubb. Look at the season he had last year. The guy's an absolute freak. Next to Derrick Henry, he might be the best pure rusher in the NFL this year. Can't speak about him enough. I do think that Cleveland's offense is going to be better this year. It might not be great, but it will be better. We saw their recipe for success last year was to feed Nick Chubb the ball. I think they do the same again this year. Moving on to number 9, I have Austin Ekeler. This guy just doesn't get the respect that he deserves. And what people aren't prioritizing enough is the fact that they let Melvin Gordon go to the Broncos. Ekeler now owns this backfield. Sure, Jackson might take some touches away from him, but the thing with Ekeler is he is probably the best pass-catching back in the NFL, and Tyrod Taylor loves to dump the ball off, so Ekeler should be able to rein in about the same amount of catches as he had last year, and I actually think he'll have more rushing yards this year, and as long as he can overcome like 7 or 8 touchdowns, he'll finish in the top 10 easily. Last, but surely not least, we have Clyde EdwardsHelaire. Yes, he is a rookie, and yes, he is unproven. But if you look at the college stats he had last year, you cannot deny this guy's talent. Plus, he's on the Chiefs and already locked in the starting running back job for their team. Everyone in the Chiefs camp loves him. They give him high praise. The guy's like Darren Sproles, except he has power. He's so elusive. We all saw it in the national championship game. And he's in one of the best situations in the National Football League. I love the upside here. I love the upside here at number 10, and I could easily see him squeaking in to the top 5 this year. Call it crazy, but this is why you're watching Calling My Shots. Stay tuned